Hello, and we're back for day 3 of season 2. Um, I'm not going to be bombarding you every single day of the next 10 months. It's just we're playing a bit of catch up. It took me a little while to enact all the summer changes, but after a couple of days of league action and Community Shield, we're on to the Carabao Cup now. Most of us in action, apart from I think 4 who made it into European competition, despite us being in League 1 and 2. But as well as that, we've got the National League Prem, because obviously they're not in League Cup action either. So we're going to see the 3 other newcomers live, as well as 2 of the All League 2 clashes, I believe. And then we'll also go through the results. So hopefully, if it went in order, it would go Carabao Cup, National League Prem, but I'm at the mercy of FM, as always. And indeed, they've taken me somewhere completely different. So this is our first look at Craig Trudgell's On the Ball Craig, otbCraig if you prefer. Up against Newcastle D, got off to a pretty simple start last week, winning his first league game. It looks like there's been a few changes to Newcastle D's team since I created them. Craig's 4-2-3-1, overlooked by his manager choice of Sven. Nice to see him back. His stipulation of getting a top shagger in was quite essential to his big plans for Norwich. As I presume was getting Emi Buendia in. 2 of the newcomers are City fans, of course, but actually the other one paved the way for this Craig to pick Norwich. The other Craig went early for Nottingham Forest and Brian Clough as a combination. Mkhitaryan wasn't someone he drafted, but he was able to pick up in the waivers after he was released by the Red Wall. Looks like he could be a handy signing as well. Not sure Craig thought the Carlton Palmer would be straight in the first 11 in league games. It was his very final draft pickup. I imagine he had designs for someone like Javi Garcia or Alex Song or Fellaini or even Clint Dempsey to play ahead of him, but I personally prefer Carlton. wasn't sure how big the golfing class would be between the 4 newcomers and the sort of the default National League Prem sides. I think Freddie Woodman's answered that question a little bit there. Of course, the pyramid sides, the sort of the AI ones, not controlled by the 28 of us, they can just transfer amongst each other. Hence why you've got the likes of Gavin Marn turning out in black and white, and Callum Styles, maybe from Barnsley or somewhere like that. Big games for these 4 newcomers will obviously be against each other and the 2 that got relegated from League 2. They'll be the big challenges, but so far so good for them. Staying in the league. And a first look at Tom Gourlay's Gourlayverpool side. I think on paper Watford B might be a bit more robust than Newcastle D. They won on the opening day of the season, but you'd still expect the drafted side to find it relatively comfortable in the Tin Pot Stadium. Of course, I've been wrong before. I think Heide Helgason actually was default at one of the Fulham sides. Obviously, he was at Watford in real life, so it's just FM imitating reality as usual. Only with him scoring in this one. Tom's first round pick was Stan Collymore, so I'm not sure if he's injured or just manager Maresca doesn't value him as much as Tom did. His second pick was Brennan Johnson, who looks like he's already walking around with a broken leg. Few interesting decisions team-wise. I mean, he only drafted one keeper, which was Craig Gordon, but he did inherit Kelleher. Again, Maresca deciding that's the way forward instead. Quansah is another person he inherited rather than drafted. Bajetic, the same. It's a bit of an odd first lineup, but for only the second game of the season. Do the dance. You saw Tom Gourlay's friend Tom Necruz on the first day of the season. That was the National League Prem live game on the first day. That was a comfortable victory there too, but only one of the newcomers to see after this, and that will be Craig Daniels' NottinGiant Forest. Named because he is about 9'3". Got there in the end, but definitely the least comfortable of the live newcomer games we've seen so far over the first 3 days. And on to Craig's side, managed by Brian Clough, as I mentioned earlier. Against a Southampton D side that does have the best name in the entire database. I personally don't remember Ulrich van Gobbel. But what's her name? So yeah, Brian Clough obviously going for a 4-4-2. The pretty sexy striker lineup of Gianluca Vialli and Tony Yeboah. Odd penalty taker choice, considering you have got that front two. Vialli can probably feel a bit aggrieved that he's actually playing down at this level. He was quite a big part of the League 2 winning side for Foyverton last year. But Jamie, who runs Foyverton, obviously decided he was getting on a bit and decided to move him on. He was then snapped up as Craig's first player pick in the newcomer draft. He actually went for his team in the very first round. I do quite like seeing the other teams are from around the pyramid, but there's nothing particularly exciting about Southampton's D side, other than Mr. Van Gobble, of course. Newcastle is having an absolute mare. Missed penalty, handball to cost them a goal. Shoved in at left back inexplicably. I'm trying to see. I mean, in theory, Craig should have Nacho Monreal, Rico Henry. Even Harry Toffolo would be better than that, surely. Southampton D digging in. Digging in, I believe, at what is Trent Bridge. It was quite complicated to try and find stadiums for every single one of the 116 created teams. And I think somewhere back in history, Nottingham Forest did play a few games at, I don't know if it's the Trent Bridge or another stadium called Trent Bridge, but I did go with that in the end. This could be the first drop points amongst the newcomers. I think Cheshampton dropped 2 points at home to Brighton B in League 2, which was pretty surprising, more surprising than this. Is that offside? Yeah. Frustrating one. So now it should take us to the Carabao Cup. Starting with the aforementioned Cheshampton, trying to put the opening day's game to bed. Lost in the playoff final last season, of course. Bustin Villa, now under the guidance of Big Ron Atkinson. Seems to have already started rotating his team for cup action. Not sure that's the wisest decision, considering one of them is it Caden Young, I think, an under-18 Villa player. Andy Cheshire, who runs Cheshampton, was only one of two that opted for a complete sort of draft over this summer. People could release up to, or reduce their squads to anywhere between 15 and 25 players, and he went all the way down to 15 so he could redraft another full 10. Players included Robert Huth, Zenden, João Felix, who I think is playing, Deschamps, Friedel, Sahar, Zhirkov, Kalu, and he ended on Wes Morgan as a Leicester fan. Paul only drafted 8, but which was still more than most. Oh, Robert Huth is playing. What a way to find that out. Yeah, Paul's pickups included Samuel Eto'o, Dietmar Hamann, Mark Hughes, Moussa Diaby, Mark Wright, Levi Colwill, who I think was involved in that as well, Hleb and Wes Brown. He had an opening day draw, Paul's Bustin Villa, at home to Dauncey's Devils. But you've got to say they've been quite outplayed in the first half here. It was Paul who made the most dramatic manager sacking of the summer, removing Mourinho. I don't think his intention at that point was to get Ron Atkinson involved, but because he was the highest placed team to remove his manager, he had sort of slim pickings by the time everyone else had overhauled. Ended up going for Ron. Chesh was, I think, tempted to remove Postecoglou, but had been promised that the second season he'd win something. Something may well be the Carabao Cup. It was won last year by the Sky Lews, run by Louis. Comfortably into the next round. This is one of two sort of all drafter clashes, I guess. So League 2 against League 2. The other one being Lawrence's White Hart Chamberlain against Tom's Dauncey's Devils. You might notice a very Spursy complexion to the home side. I think he's actually achieved his mission now. It wasn't his initial draft ambition, but he's now made his squad entirely inhabited by ex-Spurs players, certainly in this lineup. But despite that, he rallied quite well at the back end of last season and finished just outside the playoffs. He obviously stuck with Pochettino over the summer, but Dauncey got rid of Van Gaal and then elected Ancelotti, which is quite the upgrade in theory. He also had quite a busy draft, unlike Lawrence, who didn't draft anyone. Happy with his Season 1 team going into Season 2 as well. Ironically, one of the players that Lawrence would dearly love in his All Spurs side is playing up front for Dauncey at the moment, Robbie Keane. Then again, who doesn't love Freddie Canute? And Svensson making his debut after being picked up in the waiver wire last week. Of course, there is the potential for penalties here. Don't think they go into extra time in the early rounds of the Carabao. Bergvall also getting his debut, picked up again through waivers, only added to the database this summer after his first season in real life. Ziegler also picked up, I believe. Both, I think, in sort of 18-19 territory on the game itself. Subtle. And lovely to see a Portal where Dele Alli can still thrive. We haven't had a goalkeeper scorer yet. And we still haven't lost into the second round. So we'll just go through the other scores now. There's obviously quite a few of them, but just the ones with drafters involved. Starting with Tom's Red Wall side, comfortably through. Good away win for Harry as well, Harry Pally. Gronkier and Zaha both picked up in the summer draft. Connor also through. Adebayor was the very first draft pick of the summer draft. Connor getting the first pick. Creating some competition for Shearer. Zig also through, a little less convincingly, but most of these lineups are pretty strong considering how little I imagine League 2 teams care about the Carabao Cup. Our first penalties. Paulo Ferreira, who was Dan's first pickup of the summer draft as well, getting the decisive winner. A few of his summer pickups in the squad there. Foyverton, our first League 1 team. You'd expect to be relatively comfortable at home to Bradford. Again, pretty much the team he played at the weekend in the first league game, which he won 7-1. And our first exit. He's not going to be happy. No Henri. No place in the second round, and actually looking at the stats, I'm wondering if Jazz is slightly regretting keeping Pellegrini for season 2. Alex avoided the same fate. Forlan was another summer pickup, getting his debut in the Cup. Missed anybody? Levi's, full of Strangeham, another League 1 side. Not entirely convincing, but over the line at least. His latest transfer dealing included Akanji leaving with William Gallas coming in, but Gallas obviously a bit late to make the squad. Akanji going to Dauncey Y in replacement. And a couple more. Ask Ned's through. Ned's almost exclusively Arsenal-driven side, with a typically Jack Wilshere first-half performance. Goal, presumably injured himself in the celebration. Quick exit. I wonder how close Bentner was to being drafted by him last summer. We seem we've got a few more. It's never ending. Matty Ellis's Leicester City, another League 1 side, through. As is Dan Gregory's Danielsey. It's his first game of the season. He was the unfortunate player to miss out at the weekend because of Dan Wyman's Community Shield obligations. He was another, like his friend Lawrence, not to draft over the summer. So the team pretty similar to how he lined up in year 1. Swindon have had a rough first week of it. He came up against Leicester on Saturday. And another one of us now. Louis through, the reigning champions. I'm not sure why they'd still be playing. I thought European sides were exempt. Must be a sort of grey area when they're League 2 teams still. De Zerbi switching up the formation. And scraping through. As does Bolgy, a belated birthday present after I ruined his actual birthday at the weekend. Slightly concerned with the John Stones injury, but happy to get through. And the biggest shock of all, we saw Jazz go out earlier, his arch nemesis, probably ready and waiting to rip the piss, has actually just followed him out the exit door. I mean, he's complained a lot of last year about how much his cup runs were destroying his league campaign. At least he won't be able to complain about that so much at the start of this year. New signing Kovacevic, one of the guilty party, missing out in the penalties. And that's it. Just going to have to take a quick look at the National League Prem League table following today's games. Actually, they don't seem to have caught up yet. Let's just a quick continue. There we go. And it's Craig Trudgell straight to the top. Oh, we've got 2 more matches. That's why. 3 more matches. Luton building on his first game, opening day win. Despite going down to 10 men. Not such good fortune for Liam's Manchester staff team, who finished bottom of League 2 last year. But even with that, you'd probably expect them to beat Crystal Palace C. Not the best opening signs, having replaced Glenn Hoddle with Amorim over the summer. And finally, Marshyside, who finished 23rd last year, also made a bit of a meal of it, but still scraped through. So now we'll look at that table. It's 4 of the 6 sort of representatives down here with 100% marks, joined by Burnley B. Tomorrow you get a break from my voice. It's just going to be the Carabao Cup second round draw, and in a couple of days we're back to league action again.